Hey guys, it's Stephanie here from Oh You're Lovely, and this week we are wrapping up the wedding series with a Q&A. So let's jump into it. Alright guys, so I'm so thankful that we did this wedding series. It seems like it has helped so many people. It's gotten a lot of people excited to make their own bridal, bridesmaid, all the words. All of those bouquets, all of the boutonnieres. I'm so stinking excited for so many people to have found this series and are getting excited to dive in and make their own wedding flowers. So if you're one of those brides, thank you so much for commenting and all of the sweet comments that we've gotten throughout this entire series. It makes doing all of this so much more fulfilling than you even can imagine. So it's just been a great experience. So today what we're going to do is we're going to answer all of the Q&As, or most of the Q&As, or the ones we got asked over and over again Q&As about bridal work, bouquets, all of that fun stuff. So I'm going to grab my phone and we're going to go through the most common questions. First question: how many flowers do I need? You guys, this is one of the hardest questions to answer because first, math. Yay, fun, math. Second, it's really going to depend on a lot of different things. So let's break it down a little bit, and I'll give you hopefully some visuals to help you kind of see things a little bit better, and it'll make it a little bit easier. I will say always order a little bit more than what you're expecting, because sometimes there are some flowers that might be a little damaged, or they didn't dye the way you wanted, or the color wasn't quite right, or there's just all these different variables. Oh gosh, you guys, this entire video is me talking. This is gonna be interesting. Sorry. Hold on, see? I even brought the perfect sippy cup for this because I am a hot mess. This is from Maggie. Thank you, Maggie, for that. So it's going to be a lot of different variables in order to figure out how many flowers that you need. On average, I would say, in my own opinion, for most of the bouquets that I make, I typically use about 20 flowers per bridesmaid bouquet, using typically 2.5-inch flowers, a few 3-inch, and then a few smallers sprinkled in. For a bride bouquet, and this one has a huge variable depending on the style bouquet that you're doing. But for the one that we did for this series, we used about 40 flowers. I typically use between 30 and 40 flowers, again, mostly in the 2.5-inch range, but a few 3-inch and then a few smallers to sprinkle in, mostly for filler. For boutonnieres, typically the groomsmen, I only use one 2.5-inch flower, and for the groom, I'll use one 2.5-inch flower and maybe one 1.5-inch, just to make his a little extra. For corsages, I would typically use, if it's a wrist corsage going like with a ribbon, probably between 3 and 4 flowers, again in that 2.5-inch range as the largest. But I would probably do one 2.5-inch and then 3 smaller 1.5 or even mini flowers to fill in that space. And if we're doing a pinned on corsage, I would probably do, again, 1, 2.5, maybe 2, and then a few smaller ones sprinkled in. Let's just say 3 or 4. I have no idea what that all totaled up. It adds up. So when I say it's a variable for the bridal bouquet in particular, it really is going to depend on the shape that you're doing. Are you doing a classic round? Those actually take up a fair amount of flowers because you're making the entire bouquet itself of flowers and then small little bits of greenery in them. Hold on, let me get you an example. This right here is a classic round. I did this on another YouTube tutorial. We'll link it in the description. I cannot remember the number of flowers I used. I want to say it was 30. Watch the tutorial, I tell you in there. For another example of a bouquet, here's another one. This one was Actually, let's count. 24 flowers. This one probably actually has more flowers than this one, but this one is super wild and heavy greenery, so they make a difference. So I would say to play it on the safe side for a bridal bouquet, allow yourself between probably 20 to 50 flowers and you'll have enough. So go on the higher end. If you have some extras, just pop them in some assortments, arrangements, give them away as the breakaway or a toss bouquet, things like that. So you can always find something to do with the extra flowers. If you run out of flowers, then you have to get more before the big event. The other thing as far as for flowers for other parts of the wedding, so if you're going to be doing your own centerpieces, let me get you another example of how much of a variable that can be. Hold on 1 second. Here are two different centerpieces, if you will. We've got this kind of over the top piece. This one has 17 flowers in it, and we have a mason jar with just some greenery and a few flowers in this. This has 11 flowers in it. Just to give you an idea, these also have some very large flowers. This also has some larger flowers to take up that space, but then fewer smaller flowers sprinkled in. So depending on the type of arrangement that you want for your centerpieces, that's also going to need to be determined into the amount of how many flowers do I need, which is why it makes it such a hard question to answer as a standard protocol. 10 to 20 flowers per centerpiece is a good estimate of flowers. So hopefully that helps answer that question. It's a doozy of a question to answer, but hopefully that gives you some guidance to start getting an idea of just how many flowers you need to order from ohyourlovely.com. Sure, we'll plug ourselves right in the middle of this. All right, on to the next question. Question number 2 that got asked over and over and over again, and I know this is a scary one, is how do you pick out the greenery? I get it. I 100% get it. The thing you gotta have to look at as greenery, here's a couple things I will say. First, I would say get kind of scientific about this, and what I mean is go to Pinterest, good old Pinterest, and pick out all of the bouquets that you are loving. And you're not really sure why you're loving them, but you're loving them. Grab all of those in a board and then really start to look at them. Do you start to notice that they're using the same type of greenery in every single bouquet? Or does it have the same kind of flow in every single bouquet? Once you have that idea, then you can start figuring out and building up your greenery and what you're gonna need. Now there's different type of greenery and they have different types of function in a bouquet, so to speak. So let's just break this down a little bit. I have a whole slew of greenery over here. We're gonna walk through it a little bit, and hopefully that helps you. When I go into the greenery section, I go to my favorite, like if you're not getting it from ohyourlovely.com, which is fine, we do have a massive, lovely greenery selection because Maggie and I both love greenery so much. But if you're going to your local craft store, go down the greenery aisle, all on its own. Don't go anywhere near the faux flowers or anything. Just go by the greenery and you start grabbing and pulling things and working it together to see. This helps a lot with color story. If it's more yellows or more blues, you'll start to be able to see this goes really well or this kind of sticks out and doesn't flow with this. And it's probably because most likely it's in a different color story. Sometimes not, sometimes you just don't like it together. But most of the time it's because the color story is a little off. They're fighting with each other, so to speak. All right, so the types of greenery that we have. Let's start with this bad boy. So this is kind of a broad greenery. There's 3 stems to this, and I would probably, if I was using it for a bouquet, be breaking this up into individual pieces because it's structured and very broad. It takes up a lot of space. But you want that sometimes, especially if you're doing something like an arch and you need to build up a base before you get all of your fun greenery in there. This is a great base. This is also great for a garland to go across the table. But again, broken up, this works great too to start filling out some space in a bouquet. So you want some broadleaf type pieces. This is also great for a cascade bouquet. If you're doing a cascade bouquet, break this into individual pieces. This starts to take up some space to create the base that you want for the rest of your greenery. Then you have something that's a little bit more bushier. These are two good examples of something like this. So compared to this, where this is flat and just structured and straight across, here's something a little bit more bushier, has a little bit more texture to it. Now these definitely also add a filler texture aspect to it too. You've got something that has like two-tone and also has some little berries and things. You can take these individually or just each stem and put it in there. This has a frosted tip to it, so that adds some texture to your bouquet as well. Again, I would individually clip off each of these stems. I've also, if you can tell from here, this one's from in our shop, this is a lamb's ear. I took off all of the individual leaves and stemmed those up separately. This is a great filler for boutonnieres in particular, because you just take off, one, well, I would take off this guy, that one's not gonna work. Take something like that off, put a flower there, you've got something done fairly quickly. So then you want, in your greenery, some things that have a little bit more of that kind of bushy aspect to it, something that has a little bit of weight, but is a little bit more compact, okay? Then we've got things that are well, this one I would consider bushy too. Something like this, individual pieces, or I would take individual parts. I could also use this as a filler because it has some great texture. So the other thing when you're mixing or when you're finding greenery is you want to keep adding interest to it, so texture is a great thing to do. Here's one that could go either bushy or structured in terms, especially some of these ferns, if you're using them individually, you're gonna have just one straight piece going off. So it's a lot more structured, but if you're using this as your full base and then adding greenery to it, this definitely has a little bit of a bushy aspect to it as well. Here's a other like very structured piece. This doesn't have a lot of greenery. This is just to add some visual aspects to it, to have something coming out one way. This one I'm really excited to play with in the near future. This would be great for like a wild bouquet or some centerpieces. I think it would be really cool for an asymmetrical kind of centerpiece. But this is something just, again, to add interest. This isn't going to make a full bouquet. Like, this is not enough greenery. Even if you started adding all of the other bits and pieces, like, you would need a lot of this to be able to fill in to make it all work. So this is like an accent filler for you. And then you've got the colored fillers that you can add as well. So this one I wouldn't use, we have this in the shop as well. I would not use this on its own, typically. But what I do is, like over here, all of these are missing. I used those in this bouquet, where I took them apart. And right there is one, right there. And I just added it because it added to my color story that I was going with for that bouquet. So you can take these all individually apart and stem them and be able to use them. This is also great to then use again with boutonnieres and corsages, so that you can add some color to it without having to do dyed flowers. I like to use cream flowers, especially in boutonnieres. Most of the time, I didn't for this past wedding, but a lot of the time, just because when you dye the flowers, again, they can sometimes get brittle if you're not using the glycerin. So if you don't want to use the glycerin, use the raw flowers and you have less chance of breakage. And then if you want to still be able to pull in your wedding colors, you can grab that with some other filler that's in a similar color of your story that you have going. Whew, that was a lot. Hopefully that helps. The other thing to note when it comes to greenery, just because you get it and it looks like this, does not mean you need to use it like this. Take that sucker apart, use individual leaves, use individual stems. It's okay, do that. It's gonna stretch your greenery out a whole bunch. Now, if I was using this as my main greenery, I might do that for the bridesmaid bouquet and use this as my starting base and then add in my other little extra bits so that I have a starting bouquet and there's less work to it. But I would also break this apart and use it in different ways as well. So whatever works for you is perfect for making your bouquets. On to the next question. Question number 3. How many colors is enough, not enough, all of that? Is there such a thing as too many colors? My answer is no, but some would say yes. So what I will say is I would minimally, if you're having a color story or a color that you want incorporated, so say it's purple, because I have an example. If you have purple, what I would suggest is a minimum of 3 colors. Your base color, the color that you want everything to work around, and then go a shade up or a darker version of that color, and go a shade down, a lighter version of that color, as well as some cream flowers. And I'm gonna pull up the same bouquet we were showing earlier. This is an example of a 3-toned wedding bouquet with cream flowers. So I only have a light pink, a light purple, a dark purple, and a medium tone purple, and then cream flowers throughout. So minimum, I would say, is 3 colors. Maximum, whatever you want is fine by me. Most of the things that I do have multiple colors and are not within the same color story, in terms of that it's not just an ombre of a color that I picked. It's colors that all work together and look pleasing to the eye. I won't show the blue one again. Let's grab another bouquet. Stand by 1 second. Here's another bouquet for an example that we've got a dark purple, a light purple, a light pink, a peach, and cream. Oh, and another light pink. So there's actually a couple different. So there's 2 pinks, a peach, and 2 purples, plus the cream flowers, and we dyed some with the centers to be black, and then we have pink as an accent filler as well. So this would be a little bit more colorful. I don't think that there is a limit to how many colors you want, as long as you're happy with it and it looks pretty. You can also go with an all cream one. I've done those before and they're gorgeous, and you let the filler do a lot of the talking as far as the color story itself, and then just gorgeous cream white flowers. Wonderful, perfect. There you go. There's the answer to that question. Question number 4. How early can you make your bouquet and store it when it's a Sola wood flowers? Now there's 2 things to note with this question. First, I have to know, are you using preserved filler? Because if you are, there are some issues with preserved filler. In particular, some of the eucalyptus in particular, they are known to weep depending on, and when I say weep, they start to drip the color that has been put on them to make them a vibrant eucalyptus stem that then is preserved. So if you want to use eucalyptus, preserved eucalyptus in a bouquet, I would wait till closer to the wedding, unless you can provide it in a climate controlled type area. Eucalyptus is known to weep in like humidity, and that does not just mean summertime hot humidity. That also means winter snowy humidity, because this girl found that out the hard way. Hello, Wisconsin. So if you're going to be making something with eucalyptus, I would definitely recommend waiting till a little bit closer to the wedding and keep a close eye on it. If you're not, if you're using artificial filler, awesome. You can make all of your bouquets whenever you want. You can dye all of the flowers. You can do this in steps. You could dye all of the flowers beforehand and not make the bouquets till closer to the wedding. All that you need to know is, because they are wood, and they are wood, you want to take your Sola flowers and keep them in a cool, dry climate. I don't even say cool, but just a dry climate, because moisture is the enemy in all of this. Wood will mold if it gets wet. So do not take your bouquet, your beautiful bouquet that you've worked hours on, potentially, and put it in a box with a top on it and give it no air circulation. You want to have some air circulation going on. You can put it in a box but have some holes in it. You can get those little silica packets and line them on there, but I would definitely have some sort of airflow going. You don't want it to be locked in where moisture could possibly start to build and then they possibly mold. So that's the only concern. And that's the same with any time you get an order of Sola wood flowers from us at Oh You're Lovely. Take and open up those bags and either put them in some sort of open container, or you can even leave them in the plastic bags, but just make sure that there's air circulation in there. Do not keep them sealed in the bag when you get your order, so that they're ready to go whenever you're ready to make with them. So hopefully that answers that question. Question number 5. Does everything have to be identical? No, unless you want it to be. There's the truth to that. For the bridesmaid bouquets, I used similar colors. Obviously, I made sure that I had the same amount or same colors, but I only had 2 dark purple flowers left at the end of making those bouquets, so I made sure each one had a dark purple. That was my only one little weird thing. Otherwise, they had a mix of the colors, but I did not make sure that each one had 5 purple roses and 5 dark Miss Ivies. Even that's not what they were in the bouquet, but you get what I'm saying. I tend to I keep a lot of the greenery similar as far as I made both of the bases the same, but everything wasn't identical. Just because in life, nothing, like unless you're an identical twin, nothing's identical. So it's okay to have them look a little bit different. Once, when you get your pictures, nobody is going to be able to tell that that one only had 3 roses and that one had 4. You're going to be just fine. But if you want them identical, you do you, boo. That's perfect. But no, you don't need to. That's my answer to that. All right, guys, there you have it. Those were all of the most often asked questions we had while doing this series. If there was a question that you had that I did not answer during this Q&A, pop it down in the comments and I will make sure to answer that as soon as possible. Thank you guys so much again for loving this series. We had so much fun doing it. I'm happy to announce that everything made it to the bride okay. She's absolutely in love with it. Maybe at a later date in our community tab when she gets some pictures, we'll send along a picture in our community tab of the lovely bride and her bouquet. But until next time, you guys, if you're loving these videos, can't get enough, want to make sure you know when the next video goes live, because if it's the video I think that we're going to release, oh, it's going to be a doozy. Make sure to subscribe and ring that bell, and to find out about the 100+ styles of Sola with flowers. Guys, I can't talk at all. Go to ohyourlovely.com. And until next time, you guys, this is Stephanie from Oh You're Lovely, and you, my friends, are absolutely lovely. Bye, guys.